Hey, good morning. It's July 26th. It's Sunday. Thanks for joining me again. We're going to be in Matthew 13, verses 44 and 45. Let me read those to you. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field. Verse 45. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it. I got to tell you a story. A few years ago, it's pretty detailed and intricate. I'll save you from that unless you call me up and you want to know more of the details. One of my sort of side interests is understanding the nature of oil, petroleum, and how it interacts and affects all aspects of our modern life. And you say, well, what does that have to do? Well, here it is. I pay attention to petroleum and oil and prices and refineries and barrels and things like that, just out of interest in understanding how it affects every aspect of our modern lives. Well, this story is not about the stock market, and this story is not about money, just so you know. There is this financial product that relates or correlates to the value of oil in kind of an intricate way. All right. Well, because it's a math equation, the way that it works, and because no matter how many times I divide a number, I can never get to zero. So for instance, if I take 10 and divide it by half, it's 5. And if I divide that by half, it's 2.5. And if I divide that by half, it's 1.25. I can continue to divide by half, but I'll never reach a true zero. Well, I had noticed that there's this financial product that relies on not reaching zero, in its inability to reach zero. Again, a math equation, and I'm being very truncated and short in my explanation here. Long story short is, I noticed that it was approaching zero. Now, it can't get there, but it can become decimal points. And because of that, because it wasn't a risk, it wasn't investing in an equity, it wasn't, and I wouldn't advise anybody to do this. I'm just telling you this story out of, like Jesus says, joy. I went and gathered everything I had, and again, I wouldn't advise anyone to do this. But because it was a math problem and not connected to anything real, and I bought with everything that I had this particular thing, and in 12 days I made 55%, and I thought I might make 5,000%, except the bank that offers that product took it off the market. So obviously I wasn't the only one who noticed that equation, that math problem with this inability to get to zero. I say that, well, and the first thing I did with that money, I got braces for Lily. That was the first thing I did with that. But I say that because I, in a sense, sold everything I had because of this thing that I knew was the case. Now, if I had tried to explain that to anyone, if I had, they would have advised me no. If I had tried to make folks understand who weren't already paying attention to these types of math problems, they wouldn't have got it. And if I was wrong, boy, that'd be something, wouldn't it? It was risky, but because of the nature of zero and how a number can continue to divide and never get there, I knew that it would work, and it did. It paid off. The kingdom of heaven is like that, where you find something that's just solid. It's just solid. And you go and you sell everything you have to get it. So the first example is he found a treasure in a field, something that nobody was paying attention to, an old field lying fallow. Nobody cares about it anymore. It's got a ditch in the back, and it has it's been on the property list, the sheriff's sale a number of times. Nobody is interested in it. This man walking through, he happens to find it, a treasure on that field. And because the treasure's on that field, and it's caught in limbo, no one will redeem it, no one will buy it, no one will invest in it or develop it. The man, he goes and he sold in joy. He sold everything he had in order to go buy that field and then take the treasure. And it was his. And the kingdom of heaven, Jesus says, is like that. Again, someone who's interested in something that just a few people are interested in, pearls. A merchant went looking for fine pearls, and he sees a bag, maybe a 50-pound bag of pearls that you can sort through and buy what you want. And he's sorting through, and he finds one that's of great value. So he went and took everything he had, sold it to other people in order to come back and buy it, because it's the best of the best of the best. The kingdom of heaven, Jesus says, is like that. Often in Indiana or in the U.S., we hear parables like this about the kingdom of heaven, or we hear about Jesus inviting us or calling us to do something, and we think that it is about agreement, or we think it's about us as an individual accepting Jesus, repenting and understanding sin and saying we need help and Lord save us, and those two things are correct. It is about salvation, and it is about people as individuals. However, the kingdom of heaven is a congregation. The kingdom of heaven is an assembly. The kingdom of God is full of people. It's the city of God. And so if we just take that to be, I have done what God has called me to do, I've accepted him, I've repented of my sins, yes, Jesus is my Lord, and we don't go to the next step of saying, okay, what does that mean I do, and who do I join hands to do that with? The gospel doesn't just call you to believe, it calls you to action. And in this situation, the action is risky, it's costly, it's new, brand new, or found, and it's exciting. It brings joy. I think about some of the songs or some choruses of hymns that maybe say, I found Jesus, right? It comes from this type of parable. I found Jesus. And we're very good at appropriating, I found Jesus for my life. I found Jesus in my family, or for my struggles, or for my pain, or for my hurt, or for my life. We often stop short and don't go the rest of the way, which is, who do I hold hands with, and what has God called us to do? Because your faithfulness is not just based upon your belief or your assent or your intellectual agreement with something. It requires actions, right? I'm not going to solve grace versus works this morning as an intellectual issue. I am going to say that what is the Lord calling you to action to do? Because you recognize that this risky, costly, new, exciting thing is worth everything. And so you will rearrange your mind, you'll rearrange your heart, you'll rearrange your life, you'll rearrange your friendships, you'll rearrange your finances, you'll rearrange in order to invest in what God is doing in his kingdom. And his kingdom has not just come to you as an individual. He has not just come into your heart. His kingdom is breaking into reality on streets and sidewalks and roads, downtown, in the fields. His kingdom is breaking into reality. And I'm inviting you and pleading with you, will you go? Will you rearrange everything so that you can participate? And so what if, as a congregation, we have a goal, one goal, something that's risky, something that's costly, something that's new, and something that's exciting. We look at our resources, and one of our resources is not strength. One of our resources is not youth. Many of us are growing older. We don't have a lot of time left. What we do have, we have property, buildings, land, we have money, and we have our choice. We still have our choice. And what I'd like you to consider is that before your property is taken out of your hands because of age or infirmity, before your money is taken out of your hands because of age or infirmity, and before choice is taken out of your hands before age or infirmity, would you join hands with the person sitting next to you? Would you be willing? Would you consider this to do something amazing? To do something risky? It's costly. It's new. Other people might wonder why you're selling everything in order to buy a pearl. Other people might think, why are you rearranging your life in order to buy a junk field? Well, because that's where the Lord's working. And we want to be a part of that before choice is taken out of our hands. We are not going to replenish ourselves with having babies. We're not going to replace ourselves with other people in our same age group. We are not necessarily a home that makes sense culturally for people who are moving into the age group that we are just leaving. And so I ask, with everything that we have, our choice, property, buildings, land, money, our lives, would you join a mission, a singular goal, while choice is still in your hands? Jesus tells Peter that, Peter, when you were young, you went this way and that way. You put your clothes on, you put your belt on, put your shoes on, and you did what you wanted. Peter, there's coming a time where you will be bound, your hands will be bound, and you will go where you do not want to go. That's a proverbial thing about death and about the aging process. For Peter, there's some specifics because Peter will die in a way that he does not want to die, or he will be captured. The end of his life will not be in his hands because that he's chosen to go with Jesus. But it's also, Jesus is giving us a little insight into how he thinks and how he thinks about with the world and our lives and aging. And he says, need to recognize that there will be a time where things are completely out of our choice. But I'm asking you, while they're still in your choice, while they're still in your hands, would you do something amazing? Would you join a mission that is impactful? Would you hold hands with the person sitting next to you? and say, what is the Lord calling us to do? Where is the Lord calling us to focus? And so, the question is probably, well, what is it, Josh? What is the Lord calling us to do? What is the mission where we pull up the anchor and put everything we have all the way and slide into the end, into God's mission with the rest of what we have in our hands, with the rest of the choice that we have in our lives? What is it? Well, I don't know that I'm going, at this point, I don't feel that I should put anything out there now. But I do know that when we come together as a congregation, that the Lord will show us if we're serious about it. If we're ready to take a risk, if we're ready to pay some costs, and I don't just mean financially, right? Things are costly socially. Things are costly in our families. Things cost with our friends. Things cost with changing our minds or re-educating or focusing or tooling up, right, for the next thing. Redoing the machines so that we can make a different product. Would you do that? And we ask, what's it like? What's the kingdom like where the last is first and the first is last? How do I join that kingdom? How do I join the kingdom where we find comfort for sorrow? Where do I join the kingdom where those who are marginalized find their home? You won't find those places, you won't find those missions until you recognize that you can have excitement and joy by rearranging your whole lives to go all in on a mission with the congregation. Would you do that? Would you pay that price in order to follow God in His kingdom? And with the opportunity that we have left, with the time that we have left, with the space that is left in our lives, would you risk it all in order to find joy in joining God's kingdom, breaking through in real time and space, remaking, working its way through society to represent His values and to represent what it will be like in the future, even though we don't see it now? So that is my question and my challenge. Is it a safe bet? If you risk it all, is betting on Jesus a safe bet? Is investing in the kingdom mission, is that a safe bet? Would you do it? The last few months, we've talked about change. We've talked about uncomfortable spirituality or uncomfortable religion. And now we're going to talk about choice. Well, what is it that we are choosing to do with the time that we have left and the power and the resources still in our hands before we no longer have it? Hey, I want to give a shout out to my wife. She gave me this shirt, and it's backwards, I guess, from the camera view, but it says, "I love LA." And it's supposed to be, "I love Los Angeles." I love Los Angeles. But interestingly, Lindsay, Lily, and Lincoln all have those same initials. All right. Peace to you. I love you. And just want to say hi to Linz, Lily, and Lincoln. Bye.